Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That Nerdy Site Show, a weekly podcast where the team members from That Nerdy Site sit down, get together to talk about our lives, and all of the nerdy things we love about them. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and joining me this week, we have Logan Wilkinson on the show. How you doing, Logan?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Trev?
Doing all right. We had a busy week here at That Nerdy this last week, with, in particular, in addition to editing a whole bunch of stuff, we did our first live watch along kind of thing on for the Game Awards. We did it on Twitch. It is now up on YouTube for anybody that really wants to sit down and watch it there. It took like a day and a half to get it up onto YouTube because the thing had a whole bunch of like content ID stuff, obviously getting blocked from like trailers and stuff like that. And David Bowie in particular was keeping it from being viewed in certain countries. So I tried running through YouTube's like thing where they would basically just mute the audio of the song and not anything else around it. But since it was like a 4-hour video, it took pretty much all of Friday to like edit and reprocess the video on YouTube. But it is live now on our YouTube channel, so you can go watch all of our impressions over there. Hopefully you don't get bombarded by too many ads, since everybody else that was, copyright claiming it just was like, yeah, you can just monetize it. So I don't know what it actually looks like for the end user, but it's there if people want to sit down and watch our impressions, me, Logan, and Cameron sitting down and watching that. I also posted like a thread of my favorite highlight moments from it if you want to just kind of get the abbreviated version.
Twitter thread is very good.
Yeah. So we are going to dive into kind of our general. It's. I feel like it's been like a while since we've had kind of one of our regular shows on like, hey, it's just the things we're talking about. Especially it's been a while since you and I have sat down and had one, Logan. Because we did recently, we had like a spoiler cast episode of Miles Morales with me and Frank. We had also me and Frank talking about kind of our Assassin's Creed Valhalla impressions. Cameron was there as well. And then what was the other? We did another spoiler cast. Ghost of Tsushima recently as well.
Great game.
So yeah, it's been a while since we had just kind of one of our regular shows. Before we dive into that, just kind of the rigmarole. If you like what you hear, please remember to like, subscribe, rate, review the podcast everywhere you can. And if you're feeling extra generous, you can always support us on Patreon at patreon.com/thatnerdysite. So yeah, let's just dive right on in. To kick things off, you and I have a pair of the Games for Impact nomination. No, indie game nominations, right? Or was Raji up for Games for Impact?
It would have been an indie. It was not up for Games for Impact.
A couple of the indie game awards nominees. So yeah, Logan, let's kick it off with you. Raji and Ancient Epic. Now this was your game of the show at PAX East back when we were able to actually go out and attend events. And it has since come out and you've been playing it. So tell me kind of what Raji's plan like so far.
Yeah, so Raji, for those who don't know, it's originally came out for the Nintendo Switch as like a bit of like a few months earlier, and then has since come to all consoles, or at least on PlayStation 4 that I know of. And it is set in medieval kind of, I don't think it's like an exact time period, medieval India. And I would say is pretty inspired by like of God of War, right? Kind of Indian mythology set story. It involves Raji and kind of her trying to find her younger brother who was taken by like some demons for unknown purposes as of yet in the story. And from that pitch, they do a lot of really cool, innovative things. And it's a small team split between the UK and India. And one of the things that I continuously find really, really fascinating and that I find myself really falling in love with in terms of what Raji does is its presentation of things. And both in terms of like the visuals of the actual like minute-to-minute gameplay, which we'll get into, but a smaller thing is a lot of the cutscenes or like stories being told of like background information are done via like essentially like marionettes, like kind of classic Indian folk like marionette storytelling figures, and it's very like beautifully done. It's a cool, again, kind of way to reference the fact this is an Indian kind of team telling an Indian infused story. And then you dive into the actual like visual aesthetic of the game itself, and it's so colorful and it's so beautiful. And they were very clearly inspired by, I think, the likes of God of War and Uncharted in terms of you'll be like running up a staircase and then you round a corner and the camera will just like slowly pan away from you as you just run further and further off into the distance to just show you this giant sweeping vista. And there are a few different kind of levels, areas of the map that range in kind of their visual diversity and color. But especially the first one that you're in, which is, again, that level they've definitely honed a lot at various PAXs and kind of trade shows, is super colorful, has a lot happening, a lot of different kind of visual landscapes to look at and marvel at. And it's just a very visually striking game. And then when you get into the minute-to-minute combat, it's a hack and slash game. But I think one of the things that Raji does that's kind of interesting from your generic hack and slash is it incorporates a verticality to its combat. So kind of a few of the things that Raji can do is like essentially run up a wall and then like backflip off of it and then like come back down behind an enemy and attack them that way. There will be like pillars or beams that are like scattered throughout the landscape. They're just kind of standing beams and like these ruins of like the temples they're in, and she can like hook her main weapon is like a trident spear kind of thing, and she can hook it around that and like swing around it like a swirling move to like knock enemies or like daze them temporarily. And then later on you'll discover other weapons, like a bow will become one of the ones that you use, and like the super for that weapon is just like rain down a like hail of arrows down on enemies. And then each weapon has its own thing that it can do. So like if you run and like hop off wall with an arrow, it does something different than if you did it with like the trident or the spear or whatever. And so that sense of verticality kind of incorporated in the entire environment, I think, is really neat, and still unfolding as you play through the game. I would say, I'm maybe around halfway through the game. I don't have like a firm idea of how long the game is, but I based on like the story beats. That's what I'm kind of getting. Mm-hmm. And the entire thing I think is only like 6 to 8 hours long, so also check out kind of time wise. But yeah, otherwise it is hack and slash combat. It's not super, I think, like expert level stuff. Like you can just smash buttons and you'll pretty much figure it out. They do over time add in new enemies that do require different ways to kind of overcome them and tackle them. There was one in particular as like, I guess a negative is a little harsh, but like kind of as a negative. Like there was just like, and it's only been that one time where like this enemy was just fucking hard as nails, and for like a noticeable reason. And then like all the other versions of him that I've seen were like very much easier to figure out, but he was just really hard. And it was like the last guy you fought at the end of a level. But yeah, I mean, it is beautiful. It's fun. Raji is, I think, a great character to kind of center the story around. And then kind of the few like gods and goddesses that kind of are narrating the journey, are all very well voice acted. They're super funny and kind of engaging. And yeah, it's a really neat game. Again, like I said at PAX East, I think it is very much a title that is doing something both unique and something that's been done before, but in terms of doing something done before, it's done even that stuff differently, right? Like we've never had a God of War game set in India, for example. We really have never really had that many games in general set in India or exploring Indian mythology, and we still haven't had that many video games with a female protagonist. And so I think the kind of the collection of all of those make it a really unique and special experience, to kind of see how Raji grows over times, and to just experience this world and this mythology, with its kind of plethora of characters and gods and goddesses and demons and mythological beings has been a super fun experience, especially for someone, as I know for both of us is the case, who loves what God of War has done, and really all of its forms, and to see it kind of done with certainly a more well-rounded protagonist than the first three God of War games, and one who's less angry, and who isn't all powerful, who does have kind of worries and fears, and is being driven on not by this like bloodlust like Kratos has been at times, but by a desire to help both rescue her younger brother, but also help the other kids who are kind of imprisoned by the demons too. I think makes it a really fun and unique experience. And it's a lot of fun. I've enjoyed my time with it. Like I told Trevor before we started recording, whenever we get done here, I'm going to be playing it. I imagine I'll probably finish it or we get very close today. It's not, like I said, super long. But yeah, it's a very charming game, and I'm excited to see how it all ties together in terms of like the loose ends and like the story beats it is doing. Because that can be, it could execute it really well, and if it does, like it'll absolutely be in my top 10 for the year potentially. But even if it doesn't, I'm still very much enjoyed my time with it.
Very cool. Yeah, it's definitely one that when it came out on Switch as part, like it was one of those, like, out today from a indie showcase thing or something like that. I picked it up alongside a couple other games, and then just never got around to it. And so when it eventually came to PlayStation, I was like, oh well, that's my preferred place to play things anyway. So, and I think actually I think I need to check it out because this weekend, as we're recording, is the Game Awards sale is going on. I'm pretty sure it's on sale.
I forgot about that.
Well, it is unlikely to be on sale still by the time audiences are hearing this, because I think the sale ends today. But it is definitely something I need to pick up
for me and Trevor.
grab.
Yeah, that's a good thing I should remember too.
I'll try and remember to add it to my PlayStation library after we're done recording here. Because I think that's where I'll just be more comfortable playing it.
I will say too that, again, knowing you as well as I do at this point, I think you would enjoy your time with it, right? Like, I think at the very least you'd be like, that was a really fun, neat experience, for you in particular, Trev, and also knowing obviously how much you do love God of War and Uncharted, which I think it has taken cues from at times. I think it's neat. It's certainly in a lot of different ways not like anything else I've played in games, just in terms of like the story it's presenting and kind of the world it's in. It's neat. And like I said, it's not long at all. It's 6 to 8 hours at the most, if you're trying to like do everything and find everything. I definitely recommend it.
It looks like it's a 30% off sale right now. And it is good until looks like 1 a.m. on the 15th. So if you listen to this the day that this comes live, you can still pick it up on sale for looks like $17.50 basically.
Yeah, it's not expensive either.
Yeah. So I am there. It is in my cart, ready to go.
Nice.
I will finish that transaction when we're done here. Very cool. I'm glad to hear you're having a good time with it, and it's kind of continuing, your enjoyment. It was a good. We picked a good batch of games at PAX this year.
We really did.
Because you got that one. Fall Guys earlier was of course our game of the show at PAX. Our overall game of the show. And one of the big things that we all got excited about at the Game Awards was Season, which you had loved it at PAX. It was Frank's PAX game of the show. So yeah, it was maybe we know our stuff sometimes.
Yeah, every now and again we strike some. Artful Escape, which was I can't remember if it was yours or not, but it certainly was in the running.
It was mine.
Artful Escape. Also very much excited for more of that.
Yeah, that got a late confirmation a couple weeks ago that has officially been delayed to 2021. Since we hadn't heard anything on it, it was kind of like most of us assumed that it was taking the COVID hit. But yeah, that Annapurna confirmed that and a couple other games are officially 2021 games now. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that one when we see more for the Artful Escape as well. So moving on over to me, my game that was featured at the Game Awards and won the Games for Impact award was Tell Me Why, which I admittedly at this point finished a couple weeks ago now, and just because I finished it, and then we did our Miles spoiler cast, so that was where I could have spoken about it, but it is the latest game from Don't Nod that came out a few months back, and they learned the lessons of, I think, the Life is Strange games, in that this game it's Don't Nod and Microsoft published it, so don't expect it to make its way to PlayStation anytime soon. But it they rather than like the prolonged episodic cycle that maybe hindered Life is Strange excitement, and especially Life is Strange 2, because the later episodes of that one got super delayed, I think. This one came out kind of week after week after week, so it was 3 weeks and all 3 episodes were out. It was also 3 episodes instead of 5. And it centers around the twin siblings of Tyler and Allison. Tyler being a trans male character. And basically the premise is 10 years ago, their mother basically, like, they one of them killed their mother, because the mother was kind of like freaking out at Tyler, and Tyler feared that it was like in opposition to his kind of wish at the time to be a boy, and so like it was kind of a self-defense thing. Like she has and you see it pretty early on. Like she has like a double barrel shotgun. She's like walking down at the pier towards him, and he freaks out in self-defense, and that ends up splitting the kids up for the rest of their childhood. Effectively, Tyler gets sent off to a thing called Fireweed, which is basically like a juvenile detention / rehabilitation center kind of thing, while Allison remains in town and kind of grows up. It's all set in very rural Alaska, and the kind of like supernaturally twist that Don't Nod, I think, is kind of known for after the previous couple Life is Strange games, is these two have a power that they call the Voice, where they can basically hear each other's thoughts and have conversations in each other's minds when they are kind of reunited. The game kicks off with really them kind of coming back together, and like setting out to sell their old house. And in doing so, they kind of unearth some things that make them recontextualize and question what really happened 10 years ago. And so they kind of go on a little bit of detective mystery kind of thing to try and like figure out what happened. They interact with a lot of the townspeople. It's typical kind of Don't Nod, choose your own adventure kind of stuff. You'll be given their voice manifests a new ability now that they're older, where they can even relive memories together. But they, as memory does, their memories of events have changed over time, and so like they each remember things differently, and you as the player basically have to decide which is the canon memory that you're going to go with. You take turns kind of playing, from Allison's point of view and from Tyler's point of view. And one of my favorite little elements of the game is kind of in their upbringing and their mother character. They created a lot of stories, and they made up a lot of stories with the two kids basically as goblins. So there's like, I want to say the book is like the Book of Goblins, or yeah, I think that's what it's called. So you pick up this book pretty early on, and it just has a lot of like fairy tale stories that are like the characters in the Book of Goblins are very clear stand-ins for other characters throughout the narrative, throughout these characters' lives. And so it's a very cool kind of way of kind of telling some of the stories of their past. And a lot of them are in there, and you can just kind of like, you can read them all from as soon as you get this book. But the game kind of points you to some of them in particular at various points to help solve puzzles in the game. The mom was very much big into puzzles, and so like, to even just get into and unlock her room, there's like 3 kind of dials on her door, and you have to kind of look at a story and figure out what the dials need to be selected as per the story in the Book of Goblins. And that's where I think the game is was most interesting to me is when you're kind of tasked. It's almost like, Uncharted Drake's journal kind of thing, where you'd have to kind of bounce back and forth,
Okay,
maybe
yeah.
between the journal and like what you're looking at in the game to solve the puzzle and kind of thing. But instead of the sketchings that Nathan drew, it's you're reading a little story, and kind of like piecing together. Oh, okay. It wants me to select these kinds of characters based off of the characters in that particular story. I think I mentioned this to you kind of off air a week or so ago when I'd finished the game. This game, even though it's only 3 chapters, feels like the slowest of the Don't Nod games, i.e., Life is Strange 1 and 2, and then this game, in large part because they have a lot of like cinematic flourishes, and they really take their time with establishing shots and stuff like that. The whole thing, as I said, is set in like rural Alaska, so there are a lot of shots of just like a big icy mountain overlooking like a frozen lake kind of thing, and like it sits on that for a while before real action kind of starts coming into play. And so like it's a trade-off where it looks very beautiful, but for narrative pacing, especially coming off of 120 hours of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, as I had hack and slash kind of Viking fare, this was very slow and took a while for me to get into. And ultimately at the end of the day, I probably like it's probably below the Life is Strange stories for me, just in terms of like how I connected to the characters and the narrative. It's still great, and it'll probably make its way somewhere into my top 10, I imagine, at the end of the year, because it's still a great story. But it didn't like Life is Strange 2 last year. I played right at the end of the year, and it immediately shot up to I think number 2 on my Game of the Year list last year, because I thought that the narrative of those characters was done so well.
That's how I played Life is Strange 1.
Yeah.
It was like right at the end, like the last weekend of December, I think, that year.
Yeah. Whereas this didn't have that like immediate punch. Yeah. It's definitely sat with me in the time since, especially as I have like thought about the trans people in my own life. And I reached out to friend of the show, Sly Clone, on Twitter, because I had some questions for them with regards to like, hey, here's a trans person in my life, but they had not transitioned at the time I really knew them. How do I talk about that in a historical context while respecting, their current, life kind of circumstances, and not dead naming and not kind of misgendering and stuff like that. And they were very helpful in kind of helping me contextualize certain aspects of that life. So it I haven't had a game where I've, at least not one that I can think of, where I've played as a trans character before. So it still does that great thing that Don't Nod does of putting me in the shoes of a circumstance or a situation that I have not felt. And to Don't Nod's credit, they made a bit of a big deal about this kind of going into the game. The story is not about their trauma as it relates to them being trans, outside of the maybe misunderstandings that happen kind of at the beginning of the game and what happened 10 years ago. But in Tyler's time in Fireweed, he transitioned, and pretty much outside of like one person early on in the game being like confused and saying transvestite instead of transgender or transitioning or whatever, kind of using arcane and bad terminology, even that character very quickly kind of gets on board and just sees Tyler as Tyler, and not as who Tyler used to be, or kind of the relationship there. So like they do a great job of not making it about the trauma of a trans person, and it is that's just who this person is. And I think that's something to be applauded for. compared to how maybe The Last of Us handles trans characters. I think, and again, I'm speaking largely, or I'm trying to echo sentiments that I've seen in the trans community compared to my own thoughts, which I thought the trans representation of The Last of Us Part 2 was great, but then kind of listening to trans people after the fact, they're like, no, there are elements of that are really problematic. And I was like, oh, okay. Now I've learned as a result of playing Tell Me Why and listening to other people in their response to playing Tell Me Why. So I think it's great in that regard. But in terms of like the minute to minute kind of, story beats of the thing, I thought it was somewhat predictable in terms of like the mystery and kind of the direction we were heading. Mm-hmm. There were some fun little detours though in there. Like there's an ongoing mystery throughout the 3 episodes that there's a mailbox bandit going on. Like you will see as you kind of unearth or you just kind of look at like, bulletin boards and stuff like that. There will be like news of like, the mailbox bandit strikes again and who is it? And you can kind of, start putting your own theories together as to who it is. It gets revealed by the end of the series, but that's a fun little like tangential story that's going on alongside your own story in this. But yeah, overall, I mean, it's definitely worth playing, especially it's Xbox. So if you have Game Pass, you can play through all 3 episodes. I want to say it's probably about 2 or 3 hours an episode. And depending on, how much you have to stop and start, as I did, like I want to say that took me, 3 or 4 days to sit through and play through all 3 parts. But it's definitely, I think, worth your time, especially if you have Game Pass. If not, it's out there on PC as well. And if you don't have Game Pass, but you have Xbox, you can certainly buy the episodes independently, or maybe buy the first episode and then say like, yeah, okay, now I want to pick up the other 2. But Game Pass, like it's one of those no-brainers of like it's on Game Pass. I should definitely check that out, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
Any questions for me as I feel like I've rambled on about it for a while now?
No, I mean, I don't have an Xbox, obviously. I certainly don't have any sort of PC that would run that.
I mean, I don't think it takes like a big tough PC to run it. Like you could probably run it from your laptop just fine.
But no, I mean, as someone who loves Dontnod, obviously, like I could sit here and discuss Life is Strange Season 1 all day long. I'm excited to hear that they're kind of hitting a good stride again, both with Life is Strange Season 2, obviously, and then now Tell Me Why as well. Because they had that, I mean, from Season 2 to Season 1 was like 4 years, I think, and so to kind of get them back to back a bit quicker is always exciting to me because I'm always excited about anything Dontnod does. I think they just have a great team there who tell really engaging, captivating, compelling, important stories, and so from that end of it, I'm just very happy to see that they kind of came back with another really good game again.
Yeah. Cool. Let's kick it back over to you. Let's talk about, you said you've been watching some, as I think in your words, trash holiday movies.
Mm-hmm,
so tell me about your trash holiday movies that you've been watching these days.
Yes. So again, part of the friend group that I have in town, we have like every Wednesday we'll have like weekly, Zoom calls, just hang out and meet up and everything. And that eventually spawned 2 of the participants, Shravya and Andrea, kind of having a weekly on Fridays, just like trash TV night where they just watch like, Real Housewives and 90 Day Fiance and like all just kind of like reality trash TV kind of things. Mm-hmm. And then with the holiday seasons coming, they decided, well, let's just make it trash holiday movies. And they recruited myself, friend of the show Renee, who was on News You Care About, to kind of take part in it as well as their partners. And yeah, so we've seen, I think, 3 or 4 now. And one was like just one was really not good. And it was like 2 like radio talk show hosts who for a variety who've been like lifelong friends since like elementary school. Their families are all like they celebrate Christmas together and everything, but they've never like been a couple. And over the course of this, like it's revealed that like the girl had a crush on him back in high school. He like went to prom with somebody else, whatever, blah 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 stuff. But for whatever reason, their producer like tells them that they're gonna get like nationally tested their radio show for like a week after Christmas and like leading up to like New Year's Eve, which is like a big day for radio people. And that wouldn't be a funny idea if like you bring your like two partners on board to like introduce to your family for the first time. Their two partners each dump them like 2 days beforehand. So they decide, why don't we just fake being a couple? Because it'll be like such a great idea, and then eventually like they obviously fall in love. It's not good.
So I Googled radio show host Christmas movie, and 3 possible options have come up.
Okay. This is a fun game.
So I'm curious, is it Naughty and Nice, which came out in 2014?
Mm-hmm.
Is it On the 12th Day of Christmas, which came out in 2015? So it's probably Radio Christmas?
Yep.
Radio Christmas. That came out last year. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's actually an interesting Christmas movie where it doesn't take part at all for a single second during Christmas. The movie starts the 26th, the day after Christmas, and leads to New Year's Eve. So it's actually a Christmas movie that takes place after Christmas. And yeah, it's like fine. I mean, that's not true. It's not very good at all. The recurrent thing I kept saying is that the movie is only like an hour and 20 minutes long, and like it easily is 35 to 40 minutes too long. Like, because like they get to a point where like they have like their first like montage of them like enjoying being a fake couple together, and it's like, all right, cool, just be a couple. Like, and like they have like an actual talk of like, maybe we should just like kind of try it. And then, like, it's like, cool, this is the movie just ending. This is when it should have just ended, and I don't need the other 40 minutes after this. And it just kept going, and it was like, how does this movie keep in, like, the increasingly just, like, absurd ways they would try to find to, like, keep them apart, and it's like, this is bad. So that one is the worst out of the 3 I'm going to kind of run over. After that, we watched one involving it was set in a hospital, involving a prince, and like a doctor, and the doctor's brother is like a nurse, and they all went to boarding school together, because obviously, where's the prince from? Undisclosed location, I don't know, but his dad,
some vaguely European country.
Yeah, his dad though, and this is what made me very excited, is from one of the episodes of that D+ show we recorded. Because his dad is the vampire from My Mom Went on a Date with a Vampire.
I think we talked about that when we talked about that episode. We talked about the fact that he had recently been doing some Christmas holiday movies. So Christmas with a Prince, is that what this one was?
Probably. That sounds right. Yeah. And this one was more divisive.
Yeah, Charles
right?
Shaughnessy, who plays King Edward.
Yeah. I liked it more than the radio talk show one, because the radio talk show one was just not good. This one was like, was it as high? Did it have as big of a budget? Probably not. It was really just set in the hospital ward, and it didn't really ever leave. They never get any other shots. But it was like a way more fun movie, right? Like it was like the two leads had like noticeable chemistry with each other, for example, whereas like the radio show hosts were like, I guess, and her like brother, who's like the nurse, falls like her brother falls in love with the prince's like chief of security, and those two have like super good chemistry. Like I'd have gotten a whole movie of just like the nurse brother and the prince's chief of security just hitting it off, because they had great chemistry. Again, the king is great. He's he was good in The Nanny. He's good in My Mom on a Date with a Vampire. It's just good in anything he does. So it was a lot of fun. Still probably only like an hour and 20 minutes long, and probably still like 10 to 15 minutes too long, but nonetheless was fun. And they didn't really have they only really had like one dumb, they're trying to keep them apart moment. Otherwise, I just like to let it happen naturally. But the big movie that I wanted to discuss today is Holiday in the Wilds. I think Trevor said it was Holiday in the Wilds.
Wild singular.
Holiday in the Wild. starring Rob Lowe and Kristen Davis, I think we had said.
Yep.
From West Wing and Sex and the City fame, respectively. It's good. Like, it's a thing. Like, it is, like, all of us are very much like, this movie's good. And Rob Lowe's great. Kristen Davis is great. They have, like, actually, like, good chemistry together, I think. And yeah, I mean, it was just a very fun, charming movie. And yeah, like Kristen Davis is like, I missed the first 5 minutes and came in and was like, I feel like I understand. Kristen Davis is getting a divorce. She like wins a trip or just is going to safari.
Yeah, the description of the film
Thank
per
you, yeah.
IMDb is
Yeah.
jilted by her husband on the eve of embarking on an African safari. A woman travels.
Oh, okay.
A woman travels to the continent alone, where she meets an elephant conservationist.
Yeah. See,
Who I'm guessing the elephant conservationist is Rob Lowe.
Yeah. So that is interesting to know at the very least, because I did learn something here. I assumed, missing the first 5 minutes, that she, after getting told that he wants a divorce, then she was like, I'm going to go on safari. I didn't know she had already had it planned and then got interested. But yeah, it's really cool. It's actually like a really good like conservation movie. Like, they really committed to it. And I didn't know this until like midway through the movie when Andrea like Googled it, where Kristen Davis apparently is like in real life a huge conservationist and has like worked with elephants and like elephant sanctuaries before and all that kind of stuff. And
yeah, that was the first little trivia bit that's on here. Is in real life, Kristen Davis has worked with the Orphan Elephant Rescue and Rehabilitation Program, Shedrick Wildlife Trust, and has helped bring attention to conservation issues such as the illegal ivory trade. She produced the documentary Gardeners of Eden in 2014, which also comments on the ivory trade and how it affects the possible extinction of elephants. So,
and like, it's interesting because
good for them Sex and the City people being out there being activists.
Yeah, it's very much like the middle part of the movie is very much about like the elephants and conservation and like the nature, and like there's a very like mild content warning. Like there's a pretty graphic scene because they like her as Herb and Robert like land in Africa. The whole like movie kind of revolves around like them like finding a like orphaned like baby elephant. And they find it when it's just like crying at its like mother who has been like killed and like had its horns ripped apart, and like it shows you and it's like, Jesus Christ, like it is like, it doesn't shy away from the fact that like this is a thing that happens, right? And like they go into kind of like the ivory trade, and they go into like poachers, and they go into like, all this kind of stuff. And Kristen Davis's character is like a vet who just knows how to work with elephants too, because obviously he learned that at vet school in America,
Of course.
But
it's just like a dog, but bigger.
And it's like it's really informative. It very much felt like they very clearly, probably because of Kristen Davis, like cared about the subject matter, and like they put a lot of attention to that. And then, like I said, her and Rob Lowe's chemistry is great. I could just see them like talk all day long. Do you know how that movie's going to play out? Yes. Do you know the beats that it's going to go on? Yes. Is it predictable? Yeah, kind of. But like, all in like good ways and like charming ways. Like it is very much like the definition of me of like, this is a 7 out of 10 movie, and like you just need those kind of movies sometimes. And it was fun and it was good, and we were all blown away by the fact that like it is absolutely not trash. I will say it was a good film that we watched, and I did enjoy because her son is like off at college doing college kid things, but like he loves music and wants to be a musician one day. And there's like a whole like subplot of like spoiler alert for Call of the Wild. Midway through the movie,
You mean Holiday in the Wild?
Whatever, Holiday in the Wild. But like midway through the movie, her son like comes like his son comes to Africa, and like Robler like drops him off, and like they had contact each other, whatever. And in that, her son is like, yeah, like I don't think I'm gonna go back. Like I'm just gonna like drop out of school and really focus on like the music to become like a musician, man. Like what are they gonna teach me in school? And like she obviously gets very upset and all this kind of stuff, and he like, you know, does his thing, and it's like, well, you left home and like found yourself in Africa, because she's been in Africa for like, the movie takes place also, it covers like a year and a half probably ultimately.
I was gonna say, like where's the Christmas nature of this? Because or the holiday rather.
it's interesting because so like I had thought that like because she books like a like I guess like I originally thought it was like gonna be like for 2 weeks like trip to like Africa or whatever in December, and then they like her and her brother do their thing. They find their baby elephant and they go to camp and like they have like that established thing of like here's all the people, here's the like other elephants, here's what happens here, and they go like on an adventure, come back, and then like it montages. And it covers like a few days, and it's like, all right, cool. I guess we like covered like the 2 weeks she's here. Now it's gonna be like, 2 weeks later, it's my last day, and then it goes 3 months later. Now we're in December, and it's like, oh shit, she's been here for like a quarter of the year now. And so that's when it's Christmas time. They have the whole Christmas thing, and they have like, it is kind of cool too because they do a whole thing about how obviously they're in Africa. And Kristen Davis and Rob Lowe make up exactly 100% of the white people in the African safari sanctuary that they're at. And so it is cool in that they like incorporate like because all the families get to visit during the holidays, and they actually do like a cool like incorporation of like what I'm gonna assume are like authentic African Christmas tradition like celebration things that they were talking about, and like it was kind of cool to see that. And also the main conservationist, I don't really know what the correct word would be, but like the main guy in charge of the conservation center, like the story beat is that like him and Rob Lowe's character have been like, best friends since they were like 5 basically, because Rob Lowe lived in Africa because his parents did whatever, were like travelist people, and explored everywhere. And so like they've known each other for years, and that dude, give me a spin-off movie of him. Like whoever the actors they had play that guy is like so much fun and like very witty and funny, and like a lot of the best jokes came from him, and he's very charming. And so seeing all of them interact, but that's when it's Christmas for like a week, and then like Kristen Davis leaves because her son guilt trips her and to be like, well, you found your dream after being here for like 3 months, and she's like, I'm a 50-year-old woman, I can do that. You're 18 and a freshman in college, and your first semester just got done. Maybe you shouldn't drop out. But I just love that she moved back to New York, got divorced, did all this stuff, like went to go work for like an actual vet's office, and then like was like, wait, you know what I can tell my son? Why don't you go get a just music degree in school? And I was like, I feel like that should have been one of the things that you thought of first as a mom in your 50s. Been like, hey, just go get a music degree. You can do music stuff in college while also getting a degree in case maybe that doesn't work out. Or worst case, you just learn more about music. It's great. It's a win-win. But it took her another 30 minutes in the movie, which is one of the more like ridiculous moments. And it was a great conversation because like her husband makes like the only time I saw him, but I assume he's at the very beginning of the movie too. And he's just like the most standard, like he's a businessman, like very busy on the phone. And you wanted his son to be a business guy too. And they had this very like funny conversation where she's just like, let's have him, like they have this whole like heart to heart about like her son being like a music guy, and he's like, so music major, huh? And she just goes, he'll never be a businessman, he's not. And he goes, all right, and like agrees to it. Like either one of them have any control over like what their son's college path is going to be, and he's like, all right, okay, fine. And then like it's like all solved. But no, it's funny, it's very cheesy, but it's good. And yeah, I enjoyed my time with Holiday in the Wild, and I would recommend anyone in the need for some good holiday cheer and cheese and Rob Lowe action to get it. Rob Lowe, this is what I was told anyway, but I would believe it, 59 years old, and if that's true, because it felt a little old to me, but if it's true, goddamn.
Oh, it's
there's an obligatory Rob Lowe being shirtless scene. Goddamn.
Born 1964.
So a little
less,
like 56.
56, yeah.
56 years old, man. Man, oh man.
Yeah.
Absolutely in favor of that.
He's had a good run. There's a whole runner on Parks and Rec when he was on that show that Chris Traeger thinks he's going to live forever. He thinks he's going to be the first human to live past 150. Yep. They kind of touched on that.
That's one of the iconic Chris Traeger scenes to me. Yeah, that whole dialogue, and then he gets like pneumonia or whatever, the flu.
The flu. Flu season being one of the best iconic moments of that where he just and his probably best reading moment of anything he's ever done, where he's just staring at a mirror and says, "Stop pooping." Infinitely gifable.
Rob Lowe is one. This is gonna be a Rob Lowe podcast for a minute here, guys. Rob Lowe is one for me who, can we say, has been the most successful Brat Packer?
I mean, probably. I feel like he's definitely had like the most prolonged success, I think.
Yeah, him or Demi Moore. Emilio Estevez is also very successful too. Obviously, don't want to like diminish him.
Admittedly, I don't know who all is in the Brat Pack officially, but yeah, I would say probably. Like, I mean, like he's definitely the one you think of when you think of Brat Pack.
Yeah, I like I think when I think of like the Holy Trinity of the Brat Pack, I think of Rob Lowe, Emilio Estevez, Demi Moore, like Kiefer Sutherland maybe was like tangentially related. I mean, Charlie Sheen was like out just doing his own thing.
I mean, 24 was a juggernaut of a show, so Kiefer Sutherland probably had a good run with that.
But Rob Lowe, I think you kind of hit the head on the nail for why I maybe pick him, but just like for his prolonged success. Like he's just been, he's been on 2 critically acclaimed TV shows, and left both. But then aside from like his film career, obviously as well, yeah, Rob Lowe is great.
Yeah,
was like the only big Brat Packer not in Young Guns, which I'll never forgive him for.
Well, there you go. Moving away from holiday cheesy trash and stuff, I sat down with Marvel's Avengers: Taking Aim, which is the new Kate Bishop expansion to Marvel's Avengers. For those that don't know or don't remember, I'm one of the, and I double checked, I'm still one of the first 50 platinums on Marvel's Avengers in the world. Thanks in part to it was glitched. The platinum trophy was glitched for like the first couple weeks, and I just happened to finish when they made the patch that fixed it. I was just one of the first people to finish that stuff in time. But so I max leveled 3 characters on that game before I kind of ultimately walked away from it. And so hopping back into it for Taking Aim here, was definitely like it was another one of those like a learning curve kind of games, especially coming into an action, hack and slash type game, beat 'em up, after Miles Morales, after Spider-Man Remastered, from the 2018 Spider-Man, and then again 120 hours of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, hopping into the action of this game definitely took a little while to kind of get my sea legs under me, but eventually I did, and I really enjoy how Kate plays as a character. She kind of has, for the most part, she has. I would say she's closest to Black Widow in terms of like from the core game. Sense. Black Widow has 3. So she has her like batons that she can basically beat people up with, and then for her ranged attack she has 3 shooting styles where she can switch between like an assault rifle, between handguns, and then like dual pistols or something like that. And Kate Bishop she has like a katana that she uses for her melee stuff, and then she can switch between single shot arrows, like a spread arrow, so like 3, or if you upgrade it, 5 arrows at once, or like an explosive arrow, like a slower kind of pullback for an explosive arrow shot. And she also, for like traversal, she's mostly running around, but she has like, I don't remember what it was called. It was like quantum teleport technology or something like that, where she can basically like blink across the parts of the map and kind of stuff like that. So it takes some getting used to. She's not as mobile as I would like her to be. And in particular, aerial combat sucks with her. Because like with Black Widow is at least programmed to be sticky. So like if you've got like the drones around the map or something, Black Widow will like, if she's like anywhere in the vicinity, she will just like hone in and like move to that target, whereas Kate does not do that. Kate just like, if you jump in the air, you have to be like right next to the thing for your slashes to do anything. And I don't know if that's like the game reminded me of how buggy of a mess Avengers is. The fact that like this patch seemed to like reintroduce bugs that had been fixed months ago was annoying to me. Like in particular, some of the way you kind of get quests for like the little like shield quests and the ant farm. Was the ant farm? I don't know. The anthill quests that you can like pick up throughout the game. Like we're back to, hey, you can only pick up one of those things because when you should be able to pick up like a boss quest from both of them, but apparently you can only pick up one now. It's just it's another like there are just so many things where I was just like, why is this still an issue? Why are these still things? Why are these still problems that this game? Like they've done a lot to fix a lot of complaints. Like now I can ping things on the map that my character can't like unlock, but like other characters can, and the other character will come in and like bash a wall or something like that. So they fixed some of those problems, but yeah, there's still just a lot of other issues at play here. But the story overall for Kate Bishop's thing is probably the most exciting bit because it basically is like, here's another small story. I mean, it took me like 3.5, 4 hours to complete the campaign over the course of a handful of missions or whatever. So it's probably, a third of the length of the like proper games campaign, but that's still like all dedicated to like this one character, and Clint in there is kind of like a side character for the other Hawkeye. And that's pretty cool to like get kind of these standalone episodes introducing other characters into this universe. And obviously it is also still, tying into the bigger story that they eventually want to tell. There's time travel is introduced in here. It's like I made the joke as I played through it, and you can watch my full playthrough of this on YouTube. I uploaded it there as well. But I made the joke at some point, like, took Marvel, the MCU, 19 movies to get to time travel, and it took Avengers or the game like 4 months. Because like it's time travel. You time travel in the thing, in this episode, and yeah, it's a cool introduction to Kate, especially because much like Kamala Khan, aka Miss Marvel, like I don't have a personal connection to Kate Bishop Hawkeye. I've heard great things about the Matt Fraction Hawkeye run that they're going to be basing the Hawkeye spin-off series on Disney Plus on that recently started shooting, but I have not actually sat down and read it myself or anything. So this was really my first introduction. Ashley Birch is playing Kate Bishop. She's great. Brings a fun new energy to the core cast of characters. She has a lot of back and forth with Nolan in this, as Iron Man in particular. And yeah, it's just a fun new energy to things. It pretty much immediately, or it ends on a cliffhanger that is clearly going to be the Hawkeye Clint Barton next chapter of the story, which is, I think, one of the other kind of characters we're going to get in season 1. And yeah, it's interesting because I still have so many issues with it, but it's also very much comfort food. So like,
yeah,
there's been a lot of time this last week where rather than hopping into Cyberpunk 2077, I've said, hey, I'm going to go and do the dailies in Avengers for Kate's character to, get to unlock things on her Battle Pass thing or whatever, and unlock new costumes and emotes and stuff for her. Just because it's like, I can do that. I can knock that out in, 30 minutes or something like that, do a couple missions with her, and then kind of set it aside and move on to something else. So yeah, and that's pretty much what I was expecting I would get out of Avengers. I am annoyed at how many things are still broken. And I'm annoyed that it's still I would have much preferred to be playing this in a PS5 version of the game as opposed to because that got delayed and kicked to 2021. So it's still playing backwards compatibility. It's the PS4 version of the game, so it still has, that kind of level of graphical fidelity. But overall, yeah, it was a fun enough experience, despite many gripes, and you will hear me curse a lot on the if you watch through the Let's Play, because the thing that gets me the most, and the thing I hate probably more than anything else that Marvel's Avengers does, is it has like an arbitrary 3 deaths and you're out when you're playing single player. Like you can get revived by your AI companions, but they'll only revive you twice. If you die a third time, boom, you're done, and you have to like go back to a checkpoint. And I don't know what that adds to the game. In my opinion, it adds nothing to the game. It just adds, except load times. So I died a lot in this. Part of that was like just getting back in the swing of things, and part of it is you're playing a character. You're playing a new character who is like leveling up as you go through this campaign, and so you're kind of underpowered for a lot of stuff. You don't have a lot of your abilities unlocked throughout, and so it was. I got every time that happens, and the way the campaign is structured, you die and it takes you back. You have to then sit through like a cutscene again or something like that, or like a lead into a boss fight and stuff. It was just like, this isn't fun. The checkpointing here is bad, and I hate that element of you die 3 times and you have to restart.
You're out.
It just I don't understand why that made it through QA as like, hey, yeah, this is a good idea. Like, it's just not. It doesn't add anything to gameplay. There's already no stakes. Like, if you die, you don't lose anything. So when you die here, you just lose progress, and you have to go back and replay through some stuff. And it's like, that doesn't. I didn't lose any gear or anything like that. I just lost time in my life, and that's annoying. Yeah. So yeah, that's my time with taking aim. I look forward to whenever we get kind of the next Hawkeye chapter. I also look forward to whenever we get the next, whenever we actually get like the Spider-Man chunk of it, and then I don't remember if they've announced the other one of the other characters in this season. I feel like Black Panther was probably going to be one, but then that I think got thrown for a loop with Chadwick Boseman's unfortunate passing. But yeah, it's like I haven't stayed in tune with what's going on in Marvel's Avengers, because it's just like, well, when the game flares back up, I'm sure I'll know about it, so I'll
pay attention.
I'll pop back in, play it for a little bit, and then kind of go from there. So yeah, that was Marvel's taking aim.
I still own Avengers and played through like the tutorial level and got I met the Hulk, did all that stuff, but just never got back to it after that. So at some point in time, I still can just dive back into that and see this lovely, broken, fun, messy, replayable, Borderlands-esque 7.5 game.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's not. I wouldn't even say it's like Borderlands-esque. It is jank Destiny, and it does like.
Wow, that's really selling me on it.
The other thing that I was thinking about a lot as I've been replaying it is how much time I have wasted dismantling gear, because it's like it takes like 1 second to dismantle each piece of gear pretty much. You get a shit ton, and it's basically like you just kind of gear up with whatever's the highest number to up your level, and then you just get rid of everything else, but you have to like continually be getting rid of stuff, or you won't get it in your inventory. It'll go to the locker or something like that, because you only have 9 slots in per thing. And so yeah, it's like I've probably dismantled well over 1,000 or 2,000 pieces of gear in my time playing that game. So that's 2,000 seconds. I don't know what that amounts to in minutes and stuff, but it's just one of those things. Like, if I really headed down that rabbit hole, I would probably be like, I've wasted so much time doing that, which is not fun gameplay. It's just like menu management stuff. Which is, irksome and frustrating and that kind of stuff. So yeah, lots of like, I don't remember who said it, but it is like the people who love Destiny hate Destiny. It's pretty much the exact same thing. Like, I love lots of parts of Avengers, but I also hate so many things of Marvel's Avengers. And yeah, like it's I very much wish they had just made it a single player game, single player hack and slash action campaign. Yeah, because I don't really care about the co-op nature of it. By and large. The last little thing I have on my list of things to discuss is the live-action Mulan. Since we're probably not going to do a Disney Plus, that D Plus show episode of it anytime soon.
Yeah.
I sat down with this
safe
because it
bet.
finally came to Disney Plus like normal. December 4th, I think, is when it launched. Launched with like no fanfare. They like I don't even remember seeing any tweets about it in my timeline of like, hey, Disney.
It just came out.
It was very much like I kind of assume like they just didn't want to put any more marketing behind it. It's like, hey, it's out there now. Anybody that wants can watch it. But really, go watch all the holiday stuff. Keep watching Mandalorian. Keep enjoying that stuff. And watching Mulan, it was pretty much what I kind of expected. You lose all of the fun that you get out of the animated version, be it the animation itself, be it the music, all that stuff is gone for a just kind of like run-of-the-mill, like it's like they take the basic framework of the Mulan story, I guess, but they also did this weird thing where they like turn like from the get they turn Mulan into a superhero who has like a superpower, the chi, and she's told that she has to hide her chi because only male warriors are supposed to have chi, and so like she's already a badass from the beginning of the movie. From when she's like a 10-year-old kid, she's a badass that you see in kind of like the flashbacks or whatever. And so like there's no growth for her really as a character. She doesn't have a relationship with the antagonist. The antagonist is just after the Emperor the entire time, and doesn't even know Mulan exists until about 5 minutes before they fight. And so it's just it's just not great.
It's not very good.
And there's also like a very weird like an uncomfortable amount of like seemingly pro-China propaganda in there to like that it feels like Disney was trying to appease the Chinese market by putting some of that stuff in there and like get it approved, and then that didn't really help them all that much because A, pandemic times, but B, even when it did release in China, it didn't move mountains.
Didn't do great.
So yeah, it's just it was not a great time. It's definitely something I never need to sit down and think about again. And if I ever want to watch Mulan again, I will very easily watch the animated version. There was like one moment where I went like yay because Ming-Na Wen came up on the screen as like in her little cameo, obligatory like the original Mulan being in this movie, and it was also the same day her character returned in Mandalorian. So I was like, hey, that's a good day for Ming-Na Wen on Disney Plus. Was that day, but it was still like that the fact that was the highlight of the movie for me just does not bode well for what that movie was. So yeah, not great. I wish it was a better experience, but it was not.
I decided to Google Mulan. With a production budget of $200 million, the film grossed $70 million at the box office.
Oh yeah, I mean it will go down in history, and not Disney's fault. Like, if anything, Disney can blame the pandemic for this. But yeah, it will go down as one of their biggest, quote unquote flops as a result of that. Now, that doesn't account for the fact that like they kept it on Disney Plus Premium, so you could watch it for the first few months on Disney Plus, but you had to pay $30 to watch it before it came to like regular Disney Plus. So maybe they got a lot of traction on that. And they don't report those numbers. So
who's Jet Li play? Is he the Emperor?
Yeah, he plays the Emperor.
Oh, damn, this cast is really good. Actually,
it's got a great cast. Donnie, is it Donnie Yen? Donnie Yen, yeah. He like
Jason Scott Lee.
They basically took the
Zama.
They took the Donnie Osmond character and like kind of split it into two. So like there's two like generals at the camp or whatever. One is like, and neither of them are the romantic love interest. There's like another person who's the romantic. So like really that character got split into three characters basically.
Okay.
But yeah, like Donnie Yen is like one of them. I'm not saying his name right, I'm sure. But he's one of them. And then the other, like, there's another guy who's basically like like the angry, like militant kind of character, and then one of the other recruits basically plays the love interest kind of thing. But yeah, still like, like it's weird, given that Jet Li is in this. You expect him to do some Jet Li things, but nope. He's the emperor. He's pretty straight laced. He's like, basically like a hostage for the half of the movie he's in.
Yeah.
And doesn't like have any cool action scenes of himself. So yeah, it was I was like thoroughly underwhelmed by the movie the entire time, which is disappointing. But yeah, in the grand scheme of things, it did not do well, obviously because of the pandemic, and it didn't get like a global release. But I can't imagine like the critical problems with it would have still held up, even if it had a global release. It might have made a bunch of money opening weekend, but I can't imagine it would have had good word of mouth to carry it into other weekends of its run. So yeah, that was my time with Mulan. Not a great time. I wish they would stop doing these live action versions of these movies, because they just miss way more than they hit. It's like we don't need them.
I mean, like, admittedly, I'll acknowledge I'm not like the biggest Disney fan. I'm not like as big as some of like fan of Disney as like a lot of our friends are, I feel like. But I like Disney. And there are like certain Disney movies that I do really love, like The Lion King, and like I love The Lion King. It's one of my favorite movies. I still have not found time to watch the live action Lion King. I'm just like, it just doesn't look like it's worth my time.
It is,
and like none of the live action ones, I'm like, I need a live action version of this Disney movie. Really,
there were like 2 or 3 good moments in the live action Lion King.
I believe
but that was one of the biggest wastes of my time last year. Was sitting through the live action Lion King in theaters. And I like, it was one of those, I'm glad I had, Alamo gift cards or something that I could use, so I didn't actually spend any money on it or whatever it was. But yeah, it was not it just added nothing. It was pretty much just the original movie. They do a couple little riffs on it, like the in particular in Hakuna Matata. They know what joke you're expecting, so they subvert it, and that's about it. And Donald Glover has like a funny little bit or two. But yeah, it was just like, this was not worth the amount of money that they put into making that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I guess it's weird because the technology that that Favreau like used and developed for that has been used in Mandalorian to great effect. So maybe it didn't suck and it wasn't a complete waste. But yeah, I will 99 out of 100 times I will go and watch the animated version as opposed to the new animated version, because again, it's not live action. There's no live action in it, so how is it live action? It's just CGI animated instead of hand drawn animated.
Yeah.
But yeah,
The only one I've ever really heard anything like promising about was apparently like the live action Jungle Book was supposed to be like actually pretty good. But that was the only one I've heard, which I think was the first one.
It was the first one of this era. Like there's also like there's other weird things, because like there's a Cinderella out there technically, but that like wasn't really in the this iteration of live action. And then what was it like? Even the this came up in one of the Disney Plus things, I think, recently, or at least I saw it in one of the Disney Plus things. But like the Nicolas Cage, like The Sorcerer's Apprentice, is technically like a live action of like Fantasia kind of thing. And it is a Disney movie and stuff. But yeah, there's like I enjoyed Beauty and the Beast fine. It wasn't great, but it wasn't egregiously bad. And I actually really enjoyed Aladdin as well.
Will Smith.
Yeah, Will Smith I thought was fun. The Aladdin and Jasmine that they have are really good in it. Will Smith is great when he's not trying to be, or when he's not being directed to be Robin Williams. When he's getting to be Aladdin, or like when he's getting to be Will Smith, he's fun in it. So yeah, that's of the live action ones, the Aladdin one is probably my favorite. But yeah, for the most like, and then you also have like Dumbo, which I'm like, I completely forgot Dumbo was a thing.
Dumbo's sad.
Yeah, and
People always forget that.
Yep.
Number
Yeah.
bums me out.
Yeah, indeed. So yeah, they can. I would not be mad if they stopped doing live action stuff, but they're still going to do it, and they have, I don't know, a few more lined up. So
I forgot Guy Ritchie did Aladdin, didn't he? That's weird.
Yeah.
That's the weirdest part of that movie.
it very, and there's like really only like one or two moments that felt Guy Ritchie about the whole thing. And it's like there's like one sequence during like one jump where like it kind of does like the fast action that he's kind of like known for, and that was about it. Everything else, I'm just like, this isn't a Guy Ritchie movie apart from Guy Ritchie took the original film and is just putting it to live action stuff. Like, yeah, so it was weird. But yeah, I think unless you have anything else, Logan, I think that's going to do it for this week's episode.
That is all I've got.
Yeah. So let's go around the metaphorical table with any plugs we have. You can follow Logan at Lefty Logie. Anything you want to give a shout out to, Logan?
I will give a shout out to that live stream react of the Game Awards. I thought it was really good. It was our first time doing it. And yeah, I had a lot of fun. I felt like Cam and Trev had a lot of fun doing it too. There were some really good moments. And I'll also encourage you, like Trevor mentioned earlier in the show, to go check out his Twitter thread of some of the highlights, because scrolling through them again on Friday, I think, or Saturday when you posted them, yeah, I got some good laughs out of that. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. I can't wait to do something like that again.
Yeah. You can follow me at Trevor J. Starkey. You can keep an eye out. Yeah, keep an eye on our YouTube channel, I guess, for all the stuff we're putting up there. It's mostly the Let's Plays at this point. The kind of the tent poles are on Tuesdays right now. I'm putting out the my playthrough of the NES Classic games. But then yeah, I've been trying to upload more of our gameplay stuff. If we do Twitch streams and stuff, I'm also moving the archives over to the YouTube as well. So youtube.com/thatnerdysite for kind of everything we're putting up over there. You can follow everything we're doing over at That Nerdy Site, or check out thatnerdysite.com for all the latest from us. If you liked what you heard, once again, please rate, review, like, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. And maybe if you can, consider supporting us over on Patreon at patreon.com/thatnerdysite, where every patron gets early access to a monthly bonus episode of this very show. This month's early access episode is a big one with me, Logan, Cam, and Frank all sitting down and kind of running through some of our favorite forgotten gems of the last generation of gaming.
Right, I had to think,
we each kind of
way time works. Yeah.
we each kind of like highlighted a few standouts that weren't quite the top of our game of the year lists in any kind of respective year, but it was still like, hey, these are games that we really enjoyed over the last generation that maybe not enough people played. So you can check that out if you are a patron for $1 or above for this month. But if not, it'll go live for everybody at the end of December. So that is going to do it. Thank you again, Logan, for joining me, especially because we kind of put this episode together a little last minute, like 30 minutes kind of notice before we sat down and recorded.
But a good one.
But yeah, it was a good one. Always great chatting with you and catching up.
Yes.
Thank you, audience, as always, for listening. And as always, stay nerdy and be good to each other.